Hi, this is Mike Oppenheim, and you are listening to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And it is currently 6:20 a.m. in Arizona because I am on an international call with Valentina Carlini. She lives in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, which we're, of course, going to get into. And she's also a brilliant former student of mine, but in her own right, a brilliant person who, after high school, began to study medicine in Geneva, but then decided to study the classics in Zurich. But her heart and passion is in learning and also dancing. So we'll try to get into all of that. But in case I made any mistakes, Valentina, do you want to correct me on any of that?
Hi, Mike. Thank you for having me.
Hi.
And yes, actually, I'm currently living in Zurich. I left the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, but yes.
Awesome.
The rest is correct. May I add the drawing, to my passions?
Yes. And speaking of talents, how many languages do you speak?
Mother tongue is Italian, and then I would say my second language is German, since I'm living in the German-speaking part of Switzerland, followed by Spanish, French, a little bit of English. And then I like to mention Latin and Ancient Greek, even though, I don't really speak them.
So we're at I think 7 or 8, you said. And then also, do you speak that weird fourth language of Switzerland that no one's ever heard of, but I know because I was a teacher?
I don't speak it, but I kind of understand it. It's interesting mix of the other languages. So since I do speak a little bit of the other ones, I get the most of the language as well, but I don't speak it actively. I understand it.
Is it called Romansh? Am I remembering right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, just for the context for the audience, I taught you for what, a month about, or was it 2 months?
Yeah, probably 1 month.
Yeah, 1 month. That's it. Okay. And in San Francisco, California, where you came to study and refine some of your English. And as I've said to everyone I've ever met, all Swiss people are very humble, and they say they're bad at English, but they're as good as we are, and it's hilarious. So we always ask our guests, how old are you? Where did you grow up? Which I kind of went over, but you can be more specific. And then also, what generation, if any, do you feel you are a member of?
So I am 33. I was born in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. I moved when I was 17, 18 to Italy, then to Geneva, as you mentioned, and then to the German-speaking part of Zurich, where I'm currently living. And I guess I'm a millennial. I don't know. I'm not particularly proud of, but I don't know why. It's just okay. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of baggage with all these terms, like Gen X,
yes.
Millennial, Baby Boomer. Yeah, there's a lot of weird. It's also the internet. The internet just likes to turn everything negative, in my opinion.
Yes, we're not very I don't know how to say, positively described by the media and stuff. The millennials, we are kind of a weird group.
Yeah, I want to start with just kind of the culture part of the show. So what's it like to be from Switzerland? And more specifically, I know the majority of Switzerland is a French or German speaking area. So you're kind of from the quote unquote minority area. Is that true? And what's that like?
Yes, totally. It's, well, to us, it's normal actually, but I know it's difficult, or it's difficult to imagine especially for Americans, probably because you're a big country, but you all speak English. You have kind of the same traditions, more or less. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you share a lot more than us in a small country, in the middle of Europe. And correct, the biggest part and the majority is the German-speaking part. So most people speak German, actually Swiss German, which is, I will call it a dialect here, but please don't send this podcast to any Swiss person because they will be very offended. It's their really native mother tongue, actually. So it's very bad to call it a dialect, but yeah. And then there is the French part, and the Italian part is really the little minority there in the south. Most people don't know about us. It's slightly more known than Romansh, but not really. And it's a feeling because, well, my dad is from Italy, so I'm really 50-50. But yeah, we don't, as Swiss people, we come together for things like National Day or football or this kind of stuff that we're Swiss. But then again, well, we're not Italians and we're not Swiss, or it really depends. Probably who the person you're talking with is from, then you change. You slightly, identity is very to understand our identity. I think of myself as Swiss, but then again, I see German, like Swiss Germans, and I think, no, I'm not like that really. Or
Well, what about like this is kind of random, but if you're like talking at a seminar and it's just like, a bunch of Swiss people, do people like instantly kind of like cock their head and look at you and go, "Oh, you're from the Italian part"? Like, is it like noticeable?
yes, because I have Latin vibe, they call it, or this southern. Well, you hear the accent, and I mean the looks as well are different. I really look like an Italian girl or Spanish, something like that, and it's very exotic to them. Whereas to me, they all look like, well, yes, tall and blonde and like stereotyping a little bit, but I would say they are Germans. But then again, you're not allowed to say that. You're not supposed to say that. We are very sensitive about this, like about adjectives in general, and yeah, identity. It's interesting though.
Well, and speaking of identity, you alluded to it in the introduction, but you're like really into the classics, and I know that's like a very broad term, but you're kind of into like all of it, and you're into like a lot of what we love over here because we don't have it, which is like the kind of the Renaissance culture. I'm curious because I do want to segue this into like your philosophy on life and death and kind of existential questions. So, have you always had that passion? Like, do you feel like it's kind of a not peculiar in a negative way, but just kind of like a fun quirk of your personality?
Yes, I think so. I remember reading books about, well, the very first one that I read was about actually Middle East, I think. And this, I was completely fascinated by the story. And it was about a boy. I think he was living in ancient Egypt. And so, I don't know, but trade people writing down on these ceramic things, and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And they told him like, "Oh, it's language, it's writing." And so somehow he managed to move and read and learn how to read and write. And it was the most fascinating thing to me. And I was about 8. And then in middle school, my history teacher was giving also Latin for those who wanted, like, like these unfortunate hours in the evening or during lunch break. But I really loved him. So I went to Latin class, and from the very beginning, I thought, oh, this is what I want to learn and do. And so it was clear to me that I would study Latin and ancient Greek and the classics in general. So yeah, with a detour in medicines. And then, but after a quarter, I was like, no, thank you. It's okay.
Well, actually, I mean, because a lot of our friendship is based on like mutual support, and like you've helped me a lot with a lot of my issues with losing my son the way I did. Which for those of you who are just checking in for the first time, he's not deceased or anything. I just don't have strong contact with him. And then I feel like I've tried to help you. I'm not saying I have helped, but with like career decisions, because that seems to, even in that answer, be something kind of that you're trying to nail down. So I'm curious, like culturally and personally speaking for yourself, how much of like your career is your identity? Like how important is that to you in like a truly like spiritual sense?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, yes, you have had me, and I'm most thankful, and I hope I've had you as well.
Oh, so much. Thank you so much.
About the passion, well, career. Of course, it would be the best to have a career that matches or where I can really cultivate one of my passions, but it doesn't need to be the most important thing. But because unfortunately, my passions don't really pay rent, so and I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. It doesn't need it's in school at the moment. It's not about there is nothing to do with Latin or ancient Greek, but it's how to say it allows me to take dance classes or pay the rent of my little atelier where I can do my art, and it's at school, and I see a meaning in that, in education in general. So, and that's the most, I think for now it's good like that, and I will be happy even though I will never have a career as a dancer. It's okay, but as far as it's not boring me out, or it must be meaningful somehow, even though it's not one of my big passions. Doesn't really matter. Yes, I needed to find a compromise.
That's great, actually. I mean, I think that's the exact right balance. So with all that said, the big meaty question we always ask is, what do you think happens when you die? So I'm curious, what do you think happens when you die? And I often ask it this way too. Has that changed throughout your life or not? Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks.
Well, I have very early memories of myself thinking about death as a child, which might sound creepy, but no, I remember one of my very first memories is that I was almost sleeping. I was in bed already, and then I started crying, and my mom came up to me and she was like, what's happening? It was like, I was thinking that grandma will die soon. I was like, and it wasn't true, but I couldn't really cope. I did know kind of that it was going to happen, and then but yeah, I didn't know how to cope with that. And then later on, the first time when I moved out first from home, I had probably 6 months of anxiety, panic attacks in the night, like, oh my God, I am going to die. And I couldn't cope with that. It was a really but I also had nice experiences. For instance, right after a concert, it was Mozart's Requiem, where I thought I could die now happily. It was so beautiful. It was so my soul was kind of ready to go. I was like, if ever, please now, and please like that, in this kind of, it was a feeling of fulfillment, really. I didn't do anything, just sat down and listened to the music, but it was so beautiful that I found myself happy, and I thought, it's okay, I could go now. And now what I really think it happens, well, it's nothing. Well, you just die, and then your how to say, cells or atoms or whatever we're made of just is reused in nature, like nothing special. And I will see about the soul or the spirit or whatever, I will see probably nothing. My idea right now is that, well, we just dissolve kind of, and nothing happens, and we are reused in nature in some way. And it's okay if I don't know exactly how right now. But if I have a soul and the soul lives on, well, cool. I'm curious to see it ever, yeah. But if it's not, I just hope that it will be in a time where I feel that kind of fulfillment or joy, or and also happiness, but it's a very quiet happiness, you know what I mean? I'm ready to go, it's okay, bye. It was a pleasure, and nothing, no drama, no big deal, kind of part of life, and that's it.
That was a very beautiful and profound answer. And I think the reason for me it's profound is that it ties into this thing about art, and the fact that there was this maniac named Mozart who composed so many pieces. And one of them, the Requiem that you listen to, penetrates a part of you that you can't point to, feel, or touch, or offer to someone. But yet you use the word soul. I use the word soul. I mean, even the strictest atheists I know still kind of flirt around the concept of the soul. So I am curious, because, we talk a lot about in society, like entertainment and then also art, and people like separate the two. Do you draw a line between the two, and do you care? And what are kind of your thoughts on that? Entertainment versus art?
It's a good question. I think art is, well, always entertaining somehow on a deeper level. Probably not every kind of entertainment is art. You know what I mean? I'm okay with both. Like sometimes I just need my Netflix time and it's entertaining. It's not really art, but it's okay. Like but like to die watching Netflix, for instance, you know what I mean? But during the Mozart concert, yes, please. That's the kind of art. Yeah. I think art, it's deeper, I would say. I don't really, they have parts that in common, but then I see in art kind of more value, probably a deeper value. I cannot explain to you exactly why or how now, but it's not forever. It's very in the moment, and it helps you maybe, forget bad things or something about like for the next 2 hours, and then you feel better. But that's it. Art changes you, and it's kind of forever.
Actually, that kind of segues well into my next question, which is you're really into dancing. You always have been, at least as long as I've known you. And I've seen some clips and stuff, and you're very talented and you do a lot of different forms. I'm curious, like, does watching dance affect you the same way as being the dancer, or are the two different? And can you kind of explain, like, what is it like to both watch dance but know how to dance, and then also to be the dancer and be doing the dancing?
Watching the dance, well, I'm really, I appreciate the dance and it's beautiful. What I do is not as beautiful. So, but valuing that, well, of course, and it really helps me to, when I dance now, it helps me to, how to say, it's created a really good relationship with my body, which I haven't had for a very long time. I was the smart girl, but the very like loser smart girl, not into fashion, not the fashion, like, not the cool one. So if you're the smart one, you think, who said that? There is a TED talk where the speaker says something like, academic people at universities think that their body is just a way to carry the head around, the brain around, or something. And that was my it's Ken Robinson. He says that. And it's a very funny image. And I can relate to that because it was me before dancing. And it's not a very healthy way to live life because the body is as important. And so the dancing helps me a lot with that connection with my own body. And it helps the brain as well, the head, because you need to focus, but you're in a very different mental space than when you're working or studying. Like, you need focus, but you're not working. It's a very nice feeling for me, because I don't like to sit down and do nothing. I'm not able. And dancing is very good because I'm moving, the body is working great, and but the brain, the spirit, whatever, is working as well, but in a very creative way, in a very different way, in a different space. So that's different when I watch people dancing. Well, of course, I know how difficult it is, so I'm more appreciative. Like, I really appreciate the effort because I know how damn difficult it is to produce. They make it look easy, but then the feeling is that this like Mozart concert feeling, kind of, how can human beings create something so beautiful? It's art. It's like looking at a painting or something. It's the same feeling when I watch someone dancing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's so cool, because I do appreciate dancing. I'm also terrified of it. I think I'm clumsy. Like, I have all the usual, like, cliche responses that a lot of people have. But no matter what, I know that when I see it, it is art. And then also, when I do let go, which is what you just described, I love it. And then in your answer, you brought up like one of my favorite topics. You talked about your mind, which is like an intellectual force to be reckoned with, but also it has this side where it's like on the spot being creative with the body. And then you've also talked about the soul. So I'm curious, is there a hierarchy, like soul, mind, body, body, mind, soul, or do you think all three are equal? Like, how do you view these three components of human life?
No, I think they're equal, really, and working together. And if one is not functioning properly, it affects the whole. And of course, they have the incredible ability to, how to say, stand up for each other. So what I mean is, if you have, for instance, an accident, imagine I have an accident, I cannot dance anymore. Probably that part that is missing, which is the body, if you like, would be, something in the soul or the mind will come up with some idea or something like more energy to cover up for the body. Or sometimes the mind doesn't work. Personally, I don't know if I'm really stressed out or something. Well, I will book an extra dance class or go for a run or something. So the body works a little more and gives the mind a little bit of a rest, And so they need ideally they would work, do the work 33.3333% of the, and function like that. But probably in life there is this. Probably it works in. It doesn't work like that. It works. It's more flexible than that, So sometimes the body takes over, sometimes the mind, and it's about balance. I wouldn't say the one is more important than the other, really. And it's a new thing because a few years ago I would have answered very differently. I would have told you that the mind is the most important one, and then the spirit, and then the body. But I changed my mind.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. What is it like to be aging? Because this is one of my favorite parts of being friends with people of different ages. Is like, I'm 41 now, you're 33. So I've quote unquote been there. I mean, obviously I'm not that condescending and pedantic. Like, I mean, that's silly to say. But I am curious, like you just said, the statement of all statements, which is like, oh yeah, I would have answered this differently, but now I answer it this way. So how does it feel to be at this stage now? And do you think you're going to be saying the same thing in 10, 20, 30 years?
Probably not, but probably it will be not that different. Like I've answered today now, really the opposite almost, and I guess in 10 years, the answer will be different, but not that different. And, I feel the gap between what I am and what I would like to be, or something like that, is closing up. It will never close, probably, and I will never be 100% satisfied and happy and tell you, oh, now I'm perfect. But also because I'm changing every day. So today is like that and tomorrow is something else. But in general, I've always felt as a child, as a teenager, and until I was, I think, 26, 27, that I wasn't in the right age. Like my real age was not my proper age. Like, and now I'm 33. I'm like, okay, no, I'm 33 and I feel 33. It's okay. Like, so I'm really fine with that. I really wanted to grow up, grow up quickly when I was a child. I like to sit with adults. I wanted to have adult conversations, and I was not supposed to. And I was sitting on the children table, talking about things that I didn't care about, and I was that kind of child. So now I'm sitting on the adult table, and I really like it, and I like the conversation. And the only thing is, if I had the chance to start with the dancing when I was younger, now it would be much better. But that's the only thing where I think, oh, come on, body, don't give up yet. I need a few more years to practice the dancing. But yeah, that's the only thing that I don't like. No, I'm happy that I discovered this in my 30s. So I'm still able to give it a shot, and give it a try, give it a go. And but the soul is very happy now. Like, I'm 33, I feel 33, and it's cool. Like, yeah, I wouldn't go back for anything in the world, really.
That's so cool. Yeah. And I love like your statement that, you feel like you're finally at the right age, because I do totally embrace that feeling, and it's been a long time now that I felt that way. So like I think I was actually a little older than you when I first started to feel it, but yeah, like 35, 36, and then it still is strong now. So that's cool, and that's really cool that you got there. So I am curious, what is something you see from the other side of the same culture? So we're both part of this, quote, Western civilization. What are your observations?
I would say two observations. The first one is it might be useful to really learn foreign languages and have more books and foreign literature in your bookstores. Because when I was in San Francisco, it really hit me that you don't have foreign literature in the bookshops. Like, I was looking for some French book or something, and the lady there gave me a look like word, and she told me to go to university and ask there in the French department. Foreign languages, it opens up words really, and helps a lot and nurtures the soul. And the second one, it would be probably, it's okay that it's not okay sometimes. I think that it was very, very interesting for me to be in San Francisco those 2 months, because the culture is very different. I was sitting in class, and I remember in this programming course class, and everything was awesome and amazing, and everything that I was doing was a great job, and it was almost offensive to me because it wasn't. I was learning, and I was thinking, why is this lady so kind to me? Why is she so supportive all the time? Like, you're doing a great job. And I'm like, no, it's stupid, weird line of codes, like super basic. And for me, like, the culture where I am from doesn't work like that. We're not like pushed that much all the time. It's like, if you make a mistake, it's just a mistake. Get over it. It is what it is, and it's okay. And sometimes I had the feeling that in America you react a little bit differently to mistakes, for instance, or when something bad happens or you don't feel like it. It's okay. Like, you don't need a motivational speech all the time, or I don't. But it's what you get usually. And here it's more like, oh well, like, cope with it, or how does my dance teacher say, suck it up? I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, I will.
That's hilarious. So your dance teacher, wait, in what language does your dance teacher say suck it up? In English or in a different language?
Yeah, so no, we speak English because he doesn't speak German yet.
Yeah. No, it's hilarious. Last night I was watching an old American movie called Good Morning Vietnam. It's from 1988, but it's about the 60s. And he was teaching ESL to Vietnamese people in Vietnam. And the first day of lessons, he basically just says, why would you learn, like, please hand me the cheese? That's so stupid. He's like, you got to learn to say things like, this sucks. And like, so it's just hilarious. I always give my guests the chance to kind of say whatever they want. So I know I asked you specifically to talk about America and stuff, which thank you, by the way. But I do want to end with like an upbeat, what would you like to say to the world? So
probably stop for just 10 minutes and be alone. Everyone, be alone 10 minutes and I don't know, do whatever you want, but alone. That would be my best advice at the moment, because you won't be alone, actually. And it's something that I learned, especially, well, it's my nature, but then I found it in Latin literature as well. There is a quote like, I'm never less alone than when I'm alone. I'm never less busy than when I'm not busy, or something like that. And it's active leisure, like, take your time and be alone. That would be, I think it would be the world would be a better place if everyone would try to be alone 10 minutes sometimes, really alone.
Wow. That's really cool. That was a very unexpected and very awesome answer, and I'm going to really think about that in the future. Valentina Carlini from quote-unquote southern Switzerland, the Italian-speaking part. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. You're like a quotable machine, and I always take little notes as I listen because it helps me focus and also because they're inspirational. So thank you for all of that, and thank you to our audience for always checking in. And as we always tell you, the best way to support the show is just to sign up at mikeyop.com to the weekly essay that comes along with the podcast. And other than that, I got nothing much else to say to anyone. So thank you again, Val, and to our audience, we will see you soon.
Hear this tune, and I feel that you're near me, and I sing, you are my moon.